Dress Code Laws for Teachers, created by Matthew Kempff. We all know that students have particular dress codes. Some are far stricter than others, but what about teachers? Uniform and dress code regulations for teachers are set by the individual states, school districts, and individual schools. There is no nationwide standard set. Basically, in a nutshell, teachers do not have the authority and freedom to dress however they please. And whenever there is a law or policy set in place, courts tend to side with the school officials and not the individuals. It is an unwritten rule that teachers follow a common sense and professional approach when selecting their clothing. Common sense refers to social prudence, or using care, caution, and plain old good judgment when deciding on a uniform. Professionality means that showing of respect to the job and to the students, so that your outfit does not interfere with student learning or the learning environment in general. Basically, if you think an article of clothing might present a problem, then just don't wear it. Choose something else. This brings us to the case of East Hartford Education Association versus the Board of Education from the 1970s. This case was brought to the attention of the courts from the plaintiff Richard Brimley and was filed against the East Hartford Board of Education in Connecticut. Richard Brimley was a high school teacher in the district, and the school board decided to implement a new dress code policy for all teachers. In this policy, male teachers were required to wear neckties. Frustrated with this, Mr. Brimley decided to break the policy and go without wearing a necktie. Once noticed, the school board issued a reprimand for his defiance, and Mr. Brimley replied by taking the issue to court. The school board argued that the policy shows how teachers should exhibit professionalism, respect, and discipline in the workplace. Mr. Brimley argued that the policy infringed on his First Amendment rights of freedom of speech, and that the reprimand would damage his character and effectiveness as a teacher. He stated that the students would now see him as a rule breaker, and he would be modeled as a reject to the community's values. When first taken to the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, a 3-judge panel ruled in favor of Mr. Brimley as it restricted his freedom of speech. But when the case was appealed again by the board, the full panel of judges heard at the Second Circuit Court heard the case, and here is where the courts finally ruled against Brimley and in favor of the school board. The majority opinion written by the court states, "The very notion of public education implies substantial public control. Educational decisions must be made by someone. There is no reason to create a constitutional preference for the views of an individual or individual teachers over those of their employers." They went on to say that the decision of appropriate clothing is not something protected by the Constitution, and an employer does have the right to decide what is and what is not appropriate for the job. Throughout history, there have been a few similar cases to Brimley's. In all of them, the courts end up siding with the school officials who have set the standard. And when it comes to the case of religious wear, like head coverings or symbols, courts tend to rule in favor of religious neutrality in schools to prevent further issues. So it is up to the teacher to know what the dress code is in their school, district, or state, and to abide by those laws. Upon my own further investigation, I was unable to find any law, policy, or regulation, or even a suggestion on teacher uniforms in the Montana Office of Public Instruction website, and I was also unable to find anything on Great Falls Public Schools website, and also in a local area school's handbook. The most I was able to find was simple wording of teachers remaining professional. So the use of common sense and professionality when making decisions of what you'll wear and always have the students in mind. If it will cause a disturbance of any kind, just don't wear it. Thank you.